Hello.
You are listening to Teacher Talk Tuesdays with Dr. Yvonne, author of Lucas Talking and countless other educational materials. This podcast is a safe place for teachers to share their incredible stories, struggles, and triumphs. The educational system as we know it has changed. First, Dr. Yvonne is here to help. Now, here's your host, Dr. Yvonne.
Ooh, hello, hello. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Ooh, I hope y'all can see me. This thing is glitching, but we're gonna make it work. I am streaming live here on my Zoom to my YouTube page. I'm hoping I can still get my picture in here because it has been glitching, but I'm gonna go ahead and go forth, do what I need to do. So today I want to talk about discipline in the school system. And it is interesting. I'm telling you, we had a meeting today. I always talked about the educational system being what you call it, a pathway to a gateway or pathway to the prison system. And a lot of people have talked about that, and we really don't believe it. We don't want to believe it, but I actually saw it firsthand, to sort of kind of speak, with my school. We have, I guess it's a thing that they do in Texas. I don't know if y'all can see me or not. This is glitching. Y'all can't see me. But they have a program that they call, here we go. They have a program called the Once You're 10. And they spoke to the fourth graders and fifth graders about what happens once you become 10. Okay, I'm gonna have to take this off because this is just not working. Oh, I don't like that, but it's glitching. So, but y'all can hear me though. So we still gonna do this. They had a program. It was interesting because I took notes. I literally took notes while I was sitting there, and I want you all to chime in and ooh, come in with me. I'm trying to do this, but it won't let me be great. I want to do the YouTube, but I can't get to it. But this program lets the students know that now that you're 10 years old, these are some things that can happen to you according to the law. And one of the problems I have with that is that they don't teach the law in school. You know, we have social studies, but social studies is not being taught the way it needs to be taught so students can get what they need to know and learn what they need to learn to be able to be productive citizens in our community. But I'm looking at this, and this officer came in from the sheriff's department and informed our students that now that you're 10, you have to be careful because even in the school, if you get in trouble, you can be arrested. And I'm like, whoa, hold up, we doing that for real? But it was true. And the way this kid sat there and talked about it, it was crazy how they sat and they were so attentive. And then as soon as he left and they were back in their regular atmosphere, they were back to doing the same stuff they were doing before. And I want to tell you, the problem I have is that we have a system set up that there's no discipline in our school systems, where you write a child up, you call their parent, you tell them what they did wrong, and there's no consequence. There's no consequence. And you have to do this 5 times before there's a consequence from the administrators. How are we helping our students? Because once they get to middle school, mind you, I taught middle school for 18 years. Once they get to middle school, there is a police liaison in the building. There is a police officer in the building who monitors the hallways, who helps with discipline once they get to middle school. So it's not a freebie anymore. If you do something out of pocket, if you get into a fight, if you go off on a teacher, if you attack a teacher, they are right there on the premises to take you in. But what this officer explained is that juveniles in Texas, this is in Texas, this is Texas law, that juvenile detention centers hold students from ages 10 to 16 when they've acted up. So if you get in trouble in school at age 10 and a police officer has to come and get you or deal with you, you go into a juvenile detention center. There's no questions about it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They come in to get you. He gave an example that was really shocking to me. I mean, I understand that even in Illinois, when I was there, you know, the schools were responsible for you until you got home. When you got out of school, once school was out, the school was still responsible for you until you went into your house. Once you go into your house and you come back out, the school system is no longer responsible for what you do. But if you go home from school and you're walking or you're on the bus and you do something to get in trouble, if you get into a fight on the bus, the school is still responsible for you and they're going to deal with you accordingly. Parents can file charges against you if you do bodily harm to their child, or if you do something so drastic that causes the police to be involved, they can file charges and you can go to jail for that. After age 10 or at age 10, I won't even say after, at age 10, you will go to jail. He gave the example. He said the kids were having a Halloween, it was Halloween, and they were trick-or-treating. And he said there was a child who some other students grabbed, beat up, took his candy, and went home. The little boy told his parents, they called the police and filed a report. He said they went to the school the next day. This was a high school, but they went to a high school and picked up the kids who beat him up, and they were charged with robbery because they stole his candy. They were arrested and taken to a juvenile detention center. Now, he said there's only one juvenile detention center in Texas. The principal was shocked because two of the people that he came to get were A students, good children, never been in trouble. One of them was actually the quarterback for the football team. They were arrested and taken to the juvenile detention center. He showed pictures of what happens. They were searched. I'll say strip search, because he said they had to take off all their clothes. They had to strip down to no clothes, to their bare nothing, naked, and they were searched. After they were searched, they were given a jumpsuit to put on and put in a cell. Once they were processed and fingerprinted, now they have a criminal record because they beat up a kid on Halloween and took his candy. They now have a record of robbery and domestic violence. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? Domestic violence and robbery. These are high school students. See if this will work for me now. High school students who are being charged with some serious crimes. Serious crimes. Y'all, we have to be careful of what we're allowing to happen with our students. These students now have a criminal record. And that's not something you can get off your record once you get it. Well, you know, with juveniles, it can be sealed. It can be sealed. But then he said the parents were notified after the fact. They weren't notified when they went to the school to arrest them. They weren't notified when they took them from the school. They notified the parents after they were booked, strip searched, charged, fingerprinted, and put in a cell. Then he said the parents can't see them then. You can't come in and see them now because this isn't visiting hours. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine how a parent was feeling to be notified that your child has been arrested, booked, and charged and put in a juvenile facility, and you can't even go get them? You can't even go see them until visiting hours. And visiting hours is 3 days a week. You can't even just go when you want to. He said one little boy was in there and he asked the judge, because his family was supposed to be going to Disney World. He asked the judge if he could get out to go with his family to Disney World, and he was told no. Well, baby, you done lost all your rights. You don't have any rights anymore to be able to go out and have fun. Your freedom has been taken away from you. But my problem and my concern is how we're disciplining our young boys and girls in the school system. We're setting them up for that. They have to walk down the hallway on one side of the hallway with their hands by their side or behind their back on a level 0. Do you know how hard it is to get all of these kids to walk on a level 0 and even to stay in a straight line? That is the biggest headache of my day. But then when the kids get out of pocket and they get out of space and they move and they're not doing what they need to do, and you remind them of the expectations that the school has set up and where they need to be, there are no consequences for them not doing it. So if we're not preparing them right now for what's going to happen later, why are we doing it? because there's no discipline. We call parents, we tell them that the kids are talking. Oh, well, they talk a lot at home too. Okay, what does that mean? How are we supposed to prepare them if y'all can't follow a simple directive? I didn't set up the rule. I didn't set up the procedure. That's what's set up in most schools. Even when I was in Illinois, we had lines on the on the floor. They had a yellow line on one side and a black line on the other side, because so they know which direction they were going in. And they had to stay on that line. I'm told that's what they do in prison. And then, oh my goodness, he said that when they're transported to the court for their hearing, or whenever they go to the court to see the judge, they have to transport them a certain way. He pulled out a leather belt with rings on it. And he pulled out the handcuffs and said, "This is how we transport you." They had the leather belt around their waist. The handcuffs are connected to the ring in the front with them on your hands, and you can't move. They're handcuffed to your waist. And he said, if your nose itches, you can't even reach up and scratch it. So you got to lean forward and scratch your nose on the person in front of you. After that, he pulled out some shackles. Y'all, yeah, I said it, shackles to put on their feet. So when they're walking, they can only take such so big of a step that they can't get away. You definitely can't run. And then, it's chained. Every person has one of these, and each person is connected with a chain to the other one. I promise you, it reminded me of slavery. The chain gang. This is how we gonna keep y'all in order. Y'all, we have got to help our young Black and brown students get their act together before they wind up on a poster board or on the TV or on a t-shirt or on a GoFundMe account because they couldn't comply with what was being asked of them to do, and they wind up not here anymore. The discipline in our school system has to change. There has to be some consequences. There has to be some immediate consequences for your behavior, because by the time you let them do it over and over again, by the time you let them do it 5, 10, 15 times, it's already become a habit that they're not going to be able to break. And by the time they get to middle school, it's going to be broken for them. And they will wind up in a juvenile detention center, shackled. No freedom. A menace to society, as they would call it. What are we doing? We have to develop a better ability to be able to have our students understand what they need to do. We have kids, we have some that are flight risks. We have kids who talk back, who curse out teachers on a daily basis. But then he went on to tell us that according to the state of Texas, they have 2 rules that have to be followed. Actually 3. He said there's 3 state laws that have to be followed according to the educational system as it's related to the educational system. Rule number 1, law number 1, no disrupting the educational process. He said that if any student is if they're called to come and deal with any student who is disrupting the educational process, any other student, or in an environment where other students can't learn, they can be arrested and taken to the juvenile detention center. It's a law in Texas. Do you know how many disruptions we have on a daily basis? And I think this may be why they don't deal with it, because they don't want to have to take it to that level. But what message are you sending to them by not dealing with them? Because he said once that happens, then the parents are going to be in trouble too. As long as you're between the ages of 10 and 16, your behavior falls on your parents. There's a fine that's given to the parents. So I think, they did it in Illinois. It was called a blue ticket. If your child got in trouble and they were sent out of school, if they got into a fight and was suspended, the parents got a $500 blue ticket because they said that they were misconduct. They had misconduct in the community. We don't understand that. I used to think that too when I got my son to Colorado. I'm thinking, okay, I got to make sure I do what I need to do, because by the time he's 16, I'm in charge of that. That's on me. State of Colorado said just like Texas, once your child turns 16, you have no say so in whether they go to school or not. So once they get out there and they decide they don't want to go after the age of 16, they in trouble, because they don't have to come to you. Your child doesn't have to listen to you and tell you if they're going to school or not. They cannot go to school, and there's nothing you can do about it, according to the state of Texas. But if they get in trouble, they're being set up for prison. I love it. Some of y'all might not agree, but Cat Williams, I love him. I love Cat Williams. He did a stand-up about his child taking Ritalin because they wanted to put him on Ritalin. We have to understand what they do to our Black and brown children, especially our males. They keep record of them, anecdotal records, notes on their behavior until they get in third grade. By the time they get in third grade, they want to have them labeled as, behavior issues, ADHD. They're putting labels on them by third grade. It's set up in the system to do that. I know because I've been there. Because my son was hyper, because my son was active. They wanted to test him and put him on Ritalin. They wanted to say he was ADHD. No, he's not ADHD. I mean, when you think about it, culturally, as African Americans, we're all ADHD. We all hyperactive. We all got hypertension. I've been hyper all my life. But the thing is we have to understand, and what we need to know, parents, is when your child's put on Ritalin, that is a controlled substance to keep them under control so they can't function. I saw my oldest son go from being a vibrant child who was awesome in baseball to being docile and being almost zombie-like once they put him on Ritalin. It decreases your appetite. It keeps you woozy. It keeps you in a state of mind that is not conducive for you to even be able to mature or articulate what it is you need to do. We have to understand what is happening to our kids and what they're trying to do to our kids, instead of just sitting back saying, oh yeah, I'll get some money from the state, if he labeled, if he do this, if he do that, I'll get some assistance. No. Are you selling your child now? Is it worth you selling your child? What are we doing? We have to understand. I remember Cat Williams, he said his son, they fought with him to be put on Ritalin. He said finally he gave in and said, okay, give it to him. He said his child used to run back and forth. Y'all probably heard it and saw that video. And he was running and running. And all of a sudden, he said he was running and running. And he jumped and he just stopped midair and just hit the floor. And he said he was just sitting there for hours. And then he went back and asked him, dude, what you doing? He was like, nothing. He was like, what you thinking of? He was like, I'm just thinking. He said, what you thinking about? He was like, running. His mindset was still running, but his body was sitting still. That's what it does to them. But research shows that children who use Ritalin or who are put on Ritalin, once they get older, they need a stronger substance to control them, to keep them in order. It's been correlated to people who have been on Ritalin to now be on something stronger like cocaine, crack, something that is going to, it's a substance that's going to control them to keep them in line. So we have to be careful about what we allow the school system to put in place for our children and understand what it's going to do to them in the long run. Because your kid knows how they feel. Now, I see a lot of kids, and my thing is it's a lot of home training, and some people just don't want to deal with it. Some people don't want to deal with the issue of disciplining their kids. Discipline them. Because if you don't, somebody else will. You allow them to go to the school, which is going to be a controlled environment, and the things you allow them to do at home, they cannot do in the school system. And then when they get in trouble and they get caught, what then? We have to be careful. We have to be careful of what we're allowing to happen. So our kids they need some structure. We can't allow them to just keep running around and doing what they want to do. We can't. That's a problem. That's a problem. That's a whole problem that we have with our kids, y'all. We can't do that. We have to make sure it's structured. We have to make sure our kids know how to follow directions. We have to make sure our kids know how to follow the law. Because like the officer said, you can't go into a court of law and claim ignorance. Because what he also told them is, just because you didn't do anything, if you're with someone who does it, you're being charged the same way. So those little boys who went with their friend who beat up the little boy on Halloween and took his candy, even if they never put a hand on him, because they were there and they participated, even if it was just taking the candy and giving it to them and they held the candy. That right there is going to get them in trouble. If you held the candy, you in trouble. So we have to understand that is a difficult thing. We have to think that's difficult. And our kids don't understand that. They don't know that. They don't know that. So what do? Oh, I'm still trying to come in here live, y'all, and this is glitching. It's not working. It's not working. It worked last week. That's all right. We're going to turn the video off. But we need to know how to prepare them. We have to prepare them. Because they think it's okay. They think it's cool to go run out with their friends and hang out with their friends. We don't need to set them up for that. That's setting them up for failure. We can't do that. We can't. Oh, I got some people in here, y'all. Hey, talk to me. I can't get to the chat, y'all. I don't know who's there in the chat. I'm sorry. I'm trying. It's not letting me chat with y'all. I hate that I'm not on here. I hate y'all can't see me. My Zoom is acting up, so I'll probably use StreamYard next week. I have a guest coming next week, so I want y'all to be able to see her, and she is a ex-teacher from who taught education, special ed, and she sued the school district, or a school district. I don't know which one, but we are going to talk to her, Miss Felicia, on next week, and I'm excited about that. So be looking forward to that, and I'm gonna do StreamYard so y'all can see it, because this Zoom is not wanting me to be great right now. is not wanting me to be great. So I will be doing that. Those of you who are here with me, I thank you for chiming in. I thank you for being here. But yeah, we're gonna keep talking because I'm still gonna talk, even though you can't see me, it's there. But we have to make sure our students know their rights because they're not teaching them in school, and our kids are doing stuff and they're getting into trouble. And by the time they get to middle school, it's too late. It's too late because they do stuff and then they get arrested and they get taken to juvenile detention center, and there's nothing you can do. There's no bail. That was the other thing he told us today, that there's no bail for juvenile detention. When you get arrested and they take you to juvie, there is no bail. You don't get out until the judge decides to let you out. So if you're a problem child and you've always gotten in trouble and you haven't, they don't see you, they see you as a threat, or they don't see you as being a good product in society, you're going to be locked up for a while. So we have to understand, and we have to let our kids know that your actions will eventually follow you. Your actions will actually follow you at some point in time, and we have to make sure. And I understand now. Oh, it makes so much sense. Thank you. When I first got there, I had a student who did something, and I wrote him up. I called the parent. The father was upset because he said, now, you're creating a record for my child that when he gets older, this is going to follow him. And, and I told him, no, it's just a write-up for the school. But then after the officer came in today, now I understand what that parent meant. It's a trail. It's a paper trail. So when your child moves on, all of that paperwork is going with them. So I understand now, after today, I really understood what he was saying. That's going to be a part of him, and he won't be able to get away from that. So we have to understand that we have to be able to train our kids and be able to explain to them what is happening. Because that would hurt. That would be, oh my gosh. By the time they get to middle school, y'all, I taught middle school for 18 years. It is a problem. There's some things that don't happen. You don't have as many issues. I didn't have as many issues in the middle school as I see in the elementary school now. As far as behavior, it's not that many. It's very few. It may be a handful. But in the elementary school, it's like magnified times 10 as far as behaviors, because it's not even dealt with. So the kids don't even really feel like they're doing anything wrong. I had so many parents who got upset with me because I called them and told them your child is doing this, that, and the other. Well, ain't nobody else ever called and said nothing. Well, I'm not them. I'm calling you to let you know that your child has done something. I'm calling to let you know that your child's behavior is a distraction in my classroom. But you don't want to believe it. Parents, hear me and hear me well. According to the state of Texas, one of the 3 laws that they abide by in the educational system that they can arrest your child for at the age of 10 is being a disruption in the classroom and impeding the educational process. Understand that. If there's too many calls to you about your child being a disruption to the educational process, they will be taken and put in juvenile detention. Understand that. So when we call you, there needs to be something done. You need to say something to your child to get them to understand that this is what's going to happen. I don't care how many times I call a parent. It has never changed. When I call parents and the child comes back, their behavior 9 times out of 10 is worse than it was before I called the parent. because the child has gone home and told the parent that I don't like them, or I'm mean, or I'm yelling at them. And then the parent takes on this attitude where, she can't be yelling at you and you can't be being mean to my kid. I don't want my child in your room if you're going to be mean to them. You come with attitude instead of coming to me and asking me what's going on. Because see, I'm there to try to help protect your child. But the way you dealing with it, you're going to put your child in harm's way and you setting them up for failure. And we know just as human beings, when someone has talked about you in a negative manner based on how people deal with you or once they get back in your presence. I don't know how many times I've had kids come back in my classroom after I talked to their parents or after the parent didn't talk to me and they didn't like what I had to say. And the kid come back in there and, it's like they disrespect you. They don't want to listen to you. Well, my mama said, I don't have to listen to you. Oh, yes, you do. As long as you in my classroom, you do. If they don't want you to listen to me, if they are allowing you to come into my classroom and be disrespectful to an adult, then they need to come get you and homeschool you. Because you will not go there with me in my classroom. Parents, stop setting your kids up to be able to go into a classroom and have an attitude with an adult. Stop putting your kids in that position where you're sitting around talking about what you're going to do to a teacher and how you feel about that teacher in front of your child, because your child is now going to go back to that same classroom with that same teacher and play that stuff out because you did it. That's going to get your child sent to juvenile detention. So please be careful with what you do. Be careful with what you do and how you're playing this out with your kids, because they think it's okay and it's not. So we have to understand, as teachers, we have our hands tied too. There's only so much we can do. And at this point with the educational system, the way it is now, there's not a whole lot we can do. It's a whole lot we cannot do. It's stuff that I used to do when I was in Illinois, how I would discipline kids. I could give them detention. I could give them lunch detention. I could give them recess detention. I could give them after school detention. I could put them in school suspension. We don't have that stuff anymore. Kids don't have anywhere to go when they cut up. They stay in your room. And then what does it do? It trickles down like a domino effect to all the other kids because they figure, well, they did this and they didn't get in trouble. I can do it too. Now you got a whole classroom full of kids cutting up. It's crazy, but that's the way it works. I've seen good kids go bad. I'm seeing it daily. Kids who are respectful, kids sit down and do their work, kids who are mannerable, kids who follow the directions are now not wanting to follow directions, are now not wanting to do their work. Why? Because they see ain't nothing happening to the other ones. It happens all the time. It's not just now. That's what happens when there are no consequences for students' actions. I remember when I first started teaching, we had a list, a consequence list, a first, second, third, fourth offense. If you do something one time, you get a warning. Second time, you get redirected. Third time, it's a conference between you and the teacher. Fourth time, it's a phone call home. Fifth time that I have to redirect you in my classroom, now you're getting a referral. It's not every separate offense on one day in my classroom. And I'm documenting how many times I done had to talk to you. But here, it's like, okay, will they do something? Call the parents, write it up, and then don't do nothing. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. What are we doing? Because see, when you get out there in the real world, you do something the first time, they're going to deal with you. They are going to deal with you. And the way the world's set up now, you don't even really have to do nothing and you just might get dealt with. Just imagine those who talk back. I had a student yesterday. Yesterday. I had a student. He was talking about another student's mama or grandmama. And I told him to stop. I'm like, why are you talking about his grandmother? I'm like, don't do that. Y'all supposed to be on zero anyway. There's no talking. Are you talking to me? That's what he said to me. Why are you talking to me? I said, I'm talking to you because I'm the adult and the expectation for you is to be quiet. So I need you on zero. You can't say nothing to me. Okay. That's what we deal with. That's what we deal with. This same student runs up and down, does whatever he want to do. No consequences. None. But this is what you want us to deal with as teachers. The disrespect is unbelievable. But let him get outside in another setting and he has that same kind of conversation and that same attitude with a police officer. You're going to find him on the picture, on the t-shirt. We have got to try to teach our kids how to be respectful. What happened to the days where you respect your elders? What happened to that? We don't care about them respecting their elders anymore. We don't. But we need to get back to it. We need to get back to it. I promise we need to get back to it. So I hope that we can help our students and get them to where they need to be so they can stop. They can stop. We need to make sure that they're ready for society, not ready for prison. We need to have them set up to be ready for society, not prison. So I hope this resonates with someone. And I know earlier today, the same conversation was had on the Ricky Smiley show this morning about discipline in the school system. And they had parents calling in. I missed part of it. I was on my way to work. I missed part of it because I had to go in. I had duty. It was between 7:20 and 7:30 and 7, and 8 o'clock. I got to hear part of it. And it said it was going to continue the show on tomorrow. Well, I hope, Ricky Smiley can hear my show and let him know that I'm a teacher. He said he wanted teachers and administrators to call in tomorrow to talk about the discipline in the school system. I would love to call the show. I would love to be in on that conversation. I would love for him to hear my podcast to see how I feel about the same situation. There are teachers out here who are concerned about our students and the discipline or the lack thereof in our school system and setting them up to go have a pipeline to prison. We need to come together. There once upon a time they said it takes a village. What happened to the village? Our village no longer exists. Our kids still need us. Parents, y'all need to stop telling folks that they can't say nothing to your kids. You can't discipline my child. You can't talk to my child that way. Well, guess what? If you let somebody else talk to your child some type of way to get them in order, they might be around for a while. They just might be around for a while. Single parents, it's hard. It's hard to raise a child by yourself. And some of y'all raising multiples. And boys are really difficult to raise. Allow people to help you. Allow people to have your back. Allow that support system to be there. We need to be working together to make sure these children make it. This is our future. This is our future. We need to make sure that we're here working together to make sure they make it to another level. Right? So I hope this resonates with somebody, and I hope, next week I will have a different system because this Zoom is not working. I don't know what's wrong with my camera. It worked last week. It's not working this week, but I will be doing Yard Stream or StreamYard. So you all can see me because I'm very passionate about this and I'm serious. But we will have Miss Felicia with us next week, and I'll do a little blurb so y'all can see it. But we're going to be talking about again, the special ed system, you know, and her having to sue the school system because of the rights and the laws that she needed. Parents, you need to know your rights and your laws when it comes to the education system. You don't have to just take whatever they say. You don't have to put your kids on medicine. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. You don't have to do that. So please join me next Tuesday, right back here at 7:00 p.m. Central Time. We'll probably be a little longer because we'll have more conversation and hopefully we can have a dialogue. I couldn't get to the comments. I don't know why I couldn't see them or read them, but I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna still work on this. This is my second live on streaming to YouTube. So I'm getting used to it, but I'm here. I'm making a presence. All right. So I will see you all later. I thank you all for joining me for my podcast. I thank you for being here and being a part of what I'm doing and supporting me. So if you are supporting me, you know, hey, click the bell so you can get the subscription so you can know when I go live. Sometimes I might come in here before Tuesday just to give you a shout out of what's going on. But I thank you for supporting me. And we can get this information out here because I don't mind talking. I don't mind talking. Hey, that's me, the teacher that talks. So again, I thank you all for joining me in my podcast, Teacher Talk Tuesday. And until next time, you be safe and keep your kids safe. All right, holla.
Thank you for tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed Teacher Talk Tuesdays with Dr. Yvonne. And next time for more incredible stories, struggles, and